I sat at the window watching the evening invade in the avenue. I had my head against the curtains on the window. I could smell the old dust. I was tired. A few people passed. The man out of the last house passed on his way home, and I heard his footsteps clacking along the concrete pavement. Before the new red houses. One time there used to be a field in which we used to play every evening with my friends. A man from Belfast bought the field and built houses on it. Bright brick houses with shiny roofs. I remember playing out there with my brothers. Ernest, however, never played. He was too grown up. My father used to often hunt us out the field with a black thorn stick. Still, we seemed rather happy then. My father was not so bad then. That was a long time ago. We are all grown up now, and my mother has passed. My friend Tessie Dunn was dead. My other friends, the Waters, went back to England. I stayed. But everything has changed now. Now I am to go away like the others, to leave my home. Home! I looked around the room, reviewing familiar objects what I had dusted once a week for many years. I wondered, where on earth, where does this dust come from? Perhaps I would never see these objects again, from which I had never dreamed of being divided, and yet during all these years I have found out the name of the priest whose yellowing photograph hung on the wall above the broken harmonium. Besides the color bright of the promises made to Blessed Margaret Mary, he had been a school friend of my father. Whenever he showed the photograph to a visitor, my father used to pass it with a casual word. He is in Melbourne now. I had consented to go away, to leave my home. Was that wise? I tried to weigh each side of the question. In my home anyway, I have food and shelter. I have those whom I have known all of my life. Of course, I had to work hard, both in my house and at the business. What will they say of me in the stores when they found out I had ran away with the fellow? Will they say I am a fool? Perhaps. In my new home, in a distant, unknown country, it would not be like that. I would be married, and people would treat me with respect. I would not be treated like my mother had been. Even though I'm 19, sometimes I feel myself in danger of my father's violence. I know it was that had given my heart palpitations. When we were growing up, he never tended like he did to my brothers, because I am a girl. But latterly he had begun to threaten me, and would threaten me for my dead mother's sake. I had no one to protect me. Ernest is dead. Harry is in the church decorating business, somewhere in the country. He sends us money whenever he can. I always give my entire wages, 7 shillings. Father always told me he was never going to give me his hard-earned money, to throw about it in the streets, for he is usually fairly bad on Saturday nights. In the end, he does give me a few dollars and asks me if I had intentions on buying Sunday's dinner. Then I rush out as quickly as possible through the crowds and return home late, under my load of provisions. I have to work hard to keep the house together, and to see that the 2 young children who have been left to my charge went to school and ate meals regularly. It was hard work, a hard life, and now I am about to leave, and I don't find it so undesirable. I am about to explore another life with Frank. He is kind, manly, and he's open-hearted. I will go away with him by the night boat to be his wife, and to live with him in Buenos Aires, where he has a home waiting for me. I still remember the first time I saw Frank. He was standing at the gate, his cap pushed back on his head, and his hair tumbled forward over a face of bronze. Then we came to know each other. He used to surprise me outside the store every evening and see me home. He took me to see The Bohemian Girl, and I was elated as I sat in an unaccustomed seat in the theater. He calls me Poppins out of fun. First of all, it had been exciting for me to have a fellow. Then I began to like him. He told me tales of distant countries. He told me he fell on his feet in Buenos Aires and he could come over to the old country for a holiday. Of course, my father found out about Frank and forbid me to have anything to say to him. I know those sailor chaps, he'd say. I had to quarrel with Frank and meet him secretly. The evening deepened. I had 2 letters, one to Harry and one to Father. Ernest was my favorite, but I liked Harry too. I noticed my father was growing old. I know he would miss me. At times he was fairly nice. Not too long ago, he'd read stories to me. When Mother was alive, I remember going to a picnic to the Hill of North. I remember my father putting on my mother's bonnet to make us children laugh. Time is running out. I'm still inhaling the odor of the dusty cretonne. I heard a street organ playing. I felt this air before. Strangely, I remembered a promise I gave to Mother. I promised her to keep the home together as long as I could. I remember the last night of Mother's illness. It was a dark room at the end of the hall. I listened to the melancholy of Italy. I remember Father pacing back and forth to the room. Damned Italians, he'd say. I felt a sudden impulse of terror. I had to escape. Would Frank save me? He would give me a life, perhaps, and love too. I had every right to happiness. Frank would fold me into his arms and love me. I stood among the swaying crowd in the station at North Hall. Frank held my hand. He was telling me things about the passage. Soldiers with brown baggages surrounded us. I said nothing to Frank. I felt my cheeks cold. I was finding myself going into a maze of distress. God, direct me. Show me my duty. The boat blew a long, mournful whistle. If I left, tomorrow I would be at sea with Frank, streaming to the worlds of Buenos Aires. Our passage was booked. Could I still draw back after all he's done? I began to feel nauseated, moving my lips in prayer. I felt a weight on my heart. He squeezed my hand and yelled, "Come!" No, no. This was impossible for me. My hand clutched the iron in frenzy. "Eveline," he yelled to me. I walked away. I saw him run to the barrier and call to me. He called and told me to follow. I gave him a cold face. I felt like a helpless animal. I gave him no sign of love, no farewell. I stayed with Father. As the time passed, he became more abusive. The abuse escalated. It wasn't long until he passed. I found myself very much alone.